On the latest, sportscaster and her son, Peggy Kaczynski, interviews Dr. Scott Goldman, who administered an intelligence test to new Bears quarterback Justin Fields.
First thing that stands out is his scores are very consistent and parallel with a couple of league MVPs and Super Bowl winners of recent late. So he has a profile that matches some of that performance that we've seen. Remember, you were asking earlier about, trends. And so he's consistent with some of the people who are trending very high right now in the league. The other thing that was exceptional was that he had no identified weaknesses. Like, all of his scores were either average, above average, or superior.
Oh my
And I think
gosh.
that's really noticeable because most people have at least one or two weaknesses somewhere. He had no weaknesses in his profile, which I thought was really impressive from a cognitive standpoint. And then the thing that I think was most impressive was there's an area called learning efficiency, which is your ability to download information and then recall it later. And that's the test that he ceilinged out, meaning he got a perfect score on it, 2 standard deviations above the norm. He was in the 99th percentile, meaning if you tell him something, he's apt to remember it and remember it quickly and recall it later with accuracy, which I think has a real advantage when it comes to the quarterback position, given how much they have to learn. So you can either give them a bigger playbook and they can digest it as fast as somebody doing an average playbook, or you can give them an average playbook and they'll get it faster than those that are scoring an average score on the learning efficiency category.
Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com.
What's up and welcome back to BarDown Blackhawk Talk, episode number 11, presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinnie Parise, and I'm sitting here with my brother, Joey Parise, and Joseph. Aaron Rodgers is leaving Green Bay, isn't he?
Is what?
Is leaving Green Bay, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely no shot he plays.
I mean, that just popped in my head because we were listening to that commercial of the sportscaster and her son.
Uh-huh.
That just made me want to run through a wall hearing those things about Justin Fields. Man, he's going to be so sweet.
Oh, yeah. When do you think he'll start? I was talking about this with our uncle yesterday. When do you think Justin Fields gets his first start? I don't think it's week 1.
I mean, the reports out of camp today is that Andy Dalton threw 3 picks and Justin Fields looked amazing. So, I mean, if he's that much better in camp, I mean, it's just OTAs and not all the starters are there on defense and whatnot. You know, he's not facing Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks yet. But, I mean, like, dude, if he wins the job in camp, it better be week 1.
Yeah. Do you want him to win the job in camp, or do you kind of want to see them handle him how Kansas City handled Mahomes and they kind of let him?
There have been ways that it has worked that way, and there have been ways that it worked the other way. So, like, for example, in Kansas City, they let Alex Smith play for the year, and then Patrick Mahomes came in week 17, and the rest, as they say, is history. But then you think of a team like Seattle who signed, I think it was Tim Hasselbeck, And Russell Wilson, the 3rd-round pick, was just so much better in camp that they gave him the job in week 1. And as they say, the rest is history. He's a Super Bowl champion, league MVP candidate each year. So, I mean, it's worked both ways.
It has. It's also worked in the opposite. Like if you look at some players like
Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, like maybe a year off for him would have helped. Or I don't want to. I mean, I'm not counting out like a guy like Joe Burrow, but you would hate to see Justin Fields get hurt like that.
Yeah, I think the Bears' offensive line is a little bit better than the Bengals was last year.
But it could get better. So the logic would be to wait for it to be like, what they want it to be.
I know what you're saying. I mean, another thing people need to consider is Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. They're kind of coaching or working for their jobs. So, I mean, they might do whatever they think is the best way to win.
Yeah. It would definitely be more entertaining if he started.
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking of like if he had one of those rookie seasons like Herbert had, or even Burrow before he got hurt, like how would that all work out? I mean,
Justin Herbert didn't come until like week 3, I want to say, and it was against Kansas City, and he almost beat them in his NFL debut.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Kansas City, they're a great team. I love talking football. I mean, we're going to get into a little bit of football on this show and our baseball show, just to appease the fans a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think it's time, though, after a couple minutes of good football talk there, let's get into period number 1 and talk some hockey. So last week, we talked during the entire first period about the draft lottery, the percent chances, all that kind of stuff, the Coyotes being dummies and getting themselves into a position where they have to forfeit their pick, the Blackhawks' chances at winning the thing. Well, we have our results. The winner of the 2021 NHL Draft Lottery, for the first time in a couple years, if I remember correctly, was the actual last place team in the league, the Buffalo Sabres. They won it. They had like a 13% chance. I don't remember the exact numbers. It was a lot of information last week in terms of that. And the order stayed in reverse order of the standings other than one position. Anaheim and Seattle flipped. So the Kraken are going to make the 2nd overall pick. What's your take on how the draft lottery sort of went down there last week?
Yeah, it was very boring. The most exciting years are when, Philadelphia jumps up to the 2nd overall pick, or Dallas jumps up to the 3rd overall pick, or the Rangers jump up to number 2. Like those and substantial jumps is what I'm saying. Those are the draft lotteries that are exciting and surprises happen. There was really no surprises in this one, so it was a little boring, a little bit of a letdown. Seattle moving up 1 spot, really, we have no idea what they're going to draft. We have no idea anything about their team. They don't even have a team yet. So it'll be interesting to see after the expansion draft, the direction they go there. But, I mean, I guess Buffalo deserved it. You can't say that Buffalo didn't deserve it more than anyone. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it.
Absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned the teams that all moved up. It just hit me right when you were saying it. We were looking at the graphic. Every team that made a significant jump over the last, 4 or 5 years now, they were picking 15th, 14th, and 13th in this year's draft. So it almost made it look like you were talking just about them.
Yeah, right? No, I was.
No,
yeah,
I know.
Look at that. I get what you're saying, but yeah, I didn't even notice that.
And Chicago even, they made that jump 2 years ago when they picked Kirby Dach, and they're right there at 11. We'll get into that in a minute. What do you like for Buffalo?
It's tough because they can really use a little bit of everything. It's honestly tough, and I don't know the top. Like you said, there doesn't seem to be a set in stone number 1 guy. So I honestly have no idea if the best defenseman, if the top guy ends up being a defenseman. I say if you're Buffalo, you just take best available because literally, you need anything you can get right now.
Yeah, for sure. Now, for a while, it was always Owen Power out of Michigan, and he was going to be the guy that goes first. Kind of like an Aaron Ekblad type, where he might not be a super duper star, but he's going to be a really good all-star level player. That's what the projection kind of is right now. But with the way the COVID affected the whole season and the NCAA only playing, half their schedule or a third of it, something it wasn't the full slate of games. And then the OHL didn't play at all. And the different CHL leagues, which is the OHL, WHL, and QMJHL combined. So it's a mouthful.
Yeah. Major Junior Hockey League.
Yeah, exactly. All those leagues, it's a scarce amount of games, and the scouts weren't able to do their job like they normally are in previous years, and hopefully in 2021, 22 going forward, and we never have to deal with this bullshit ever again. But I mean, I think Buffalo might have the Jack Eichel effect when it comes to their draft pick this year. Matthew Beniers is the number one forward prospect, in my opinion. I know everyone's mock is going to look completely different. I'm going to have a Vinnie Parise exclusive Bard Room Network mock draft coming up over the next couple weeks. And right now, I'm thinking that's who Buffalo is going to take.
I mean, yeah, that would be interesting. And I do think, going back to what you said before that, I think if it wasn't a COVID pandemic year, I think we would have more of an idea of the top guys. But like, it's kind of up in the air right now. Like, and I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but like, you had Luke Hughes at number 4, I believe, and I've seen him at number 4 in a lot of projections, like on NHL.com and stuff. And even after the draft lottery, when they showed their list, I think that kind of fits perfectly for the New Jersey Devils.
Absolutely. I think if Owen Power somehow fell to them, they'd be extremely thrilled. I do believe there is a scenario where that happens, but I mean, like you said, there's 5 or 6 top guys, and they can go in any order, in my opinion. Just like you said, if there was no scouting in 2017, maybe Nico Hischier doesn't even get drafted in the top 10, because going into the season that year, he was ranked 14th.
It was all Nolan Patrick going into that draft.
We heard about Nolan Patrick years in advance, and some injuries, and he had the stuff with the migraines and all that. It kind of made him fall from 1 to 2. But like Nico Hischier dominating with the Swiss in the World Juniors, if it's like a bubble World Juniors and there's less stock put into it like there was this year. Like, I watched the World Juniors. I watched every game because I love it. It's, what I do. But, like, the average fan isn't watching the World Juniors this year the way they were, say, last year or the year before. And that might never happen had, there been a bubble in 2017 for Nico. So it makes you wonder, if there was a COVID year, no COVID, would a player who was ranked 15th have dominated the World Juniors, never got sick maybe, or whatever the case may be? There are a bunch of different scenarios throughout, and they're the number 1 pick, and it's like undoubted.
Yeah, I would not be surprised one bit. And it does happen. You saw, in 2014, David Pastrnak, he went late. He would probably go like number 1 overall. There's like Charlie McAvoy. I'm just number 2, whoever went that year, whatever. Charlie McAvoy, I'm just using a couple Bruins as examples, but like, there's always guys who fall in the first round or mid to late first round who end up being like legit NHL superstars. I think you will see more of that this year because of that reason.
Absolutely. You brought up that 2014 draft. Pastrnak, Braden Point, and Draisaitl can all make a case for the number 1 pick. I would say Braden Point went in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
And Pastrnak and Draisaitl were in the 1st round, but not 1. I think there are people who would take Point out of all those 3. I personally would take Pasta.
I don't think there's anyone who would take Point over Draisaitl.
I saw it on Twitter literally yesterday when he scored that sweet goal. Like, it was a topic of conversation literally yesterday online.
For me, it would go Leon, Pasta, Point.
Interesting. I would probably go Pasta, Point, Leon.
I mean, I want it.
I think people undermine Braden Point. Like, he's got the best points.
No, I know. He'll have a 100-point season. Easy.
Yeah, no doubt. He's amazing. And go ahead.
No, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that could happen this year. That's it.
Yeah, I would not be surprised one bit, but I just wanted to address Gonzo's comment. I'm wearing his cup projection from the beginning of the season. We're never out. Down 3-2. We'll get into the playoff series later, but I'm just realizing it now. Down 3-2, down 3-2. I believe they'll both win.
One of those teams will force Game 7. The other's toast.
2 Game 7s coming right up.
I would not. Well, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I think Seattle's going to take Luke Hughes with the number 2 pick.
You do?
I do, and here's why.
That would put him in the same division as his brother.
It would put him in the Pacific Northwest with his brother, which I think if you're Seattle, right?
That's going to be a big rivalry.
If you're Seattle, right, you look at the map of the league geographically and you say, okay, who's going to be my biggest rival just based on geography alone? Well, the first one that comes to mind is the Kings. Not the Kings, the Sharks. The Sharks are in Northern California. Every team in every sport in Northern California has a rivalry with the Seattle team. What's the Seahawks' biggest rival? The 49ers. The Supersonics are gone. No one cares about them anyway. But like the
Mariners and Giants rivals?
No, the Mariners and A's, I would say, though, have formidable, division rivals. The Bay Area and Seattle, those are fun. And so I definitely think the Sharks will have a little bit of a rivalry. Now, the Sharks are kind of on the down right now. So I'm not sure there'll be like any playoff intensity. We'll see what the Kraken do with their lineup. But I definitely think Vancouver, based on geography alone, will be just an automatic rivalry because of the fact that, they have the same colors even. Like, that's just kind of that theme of the Pacific Northwest with the navy blue and the teal. Like, it just always fits. The Mariners, the Seahawks, the Canucks, and then now the Kraken. And so if they each have a Hughes brother, that adds to it even more. Now, I do think the Kraken and Vegas are going to have a rivalry just simply because they're in the same division and, they're 31 and 32 in the league. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I definitely think drafting Luke Hughes will enhance the Pacific Northwest rivalry.
Yeah, I never really thought about a Vegas Kraken, a Vegas Seattle rivalry. That would be interesting. I don't really see why. If like the reason is just because of the two newest teams. I mean, it's a little silly to me, but I mean, what? The
Wild and Nashville have a pretty good rivalry, and they came in the league at the same time. And it's geography combined with that fact. I do believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess them being in the same division will make it happen. I think it's more of that. But I think their biggest rival off the bat, like you mentioned, San Jose, that'll be cool. There'll be cool themes behind that. Sharks versus the Kraken, and it'll just look cool. That's a cool looking matchup.
It makes me want to go to the not the Art Institute. What's it called? The Shed Aquarium.
Yeah. But I mean I think we're gonna get a really good Canadian-U.S. rivalry here in Vancouver versus Seattle, because I'm not a big geography guy, but Seattle is far northwest of the United States, correct?
Yeah.
And right above that, you go into Canada, and then there's Vancouver, far southwest of.
Yeah, it's in British Columbia, which is right above, like the Pacific North part of the.
Well, I mean, what I'm picturing in my head, it's like top of the border for the U.S. and then bottom of the border for Canada, and I feel like they're really close. I'd have to look at a map exactly.
Vancouver's a little up a little bit, but it's it's not right on the border or anything like that. But it's definitely
down in that
U.S. city. The closest major U.S. metropolitan is Seattle.
More than Toronto? It's like right across water.
I'm talking to Vancouver.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought you meant like Vancouver's the closest city to the United States.
No, there's probably a lot. I mean, what's the one the Little Caesars is in? Taylor Hall played his junior hockey. Windsor. Yeah, I mean, Windsor's not a major city, but
anyway, we're way off topic here. I think Gonzo says
I'll argue about geography on any show.
He says, what's Joey actually picturing his head? All right, if we can get a picture of the United States on the map, Seattle, Washington is top left of the United States, is it not?
Yeah.
That's what I'm picturing. And Vancouver is bottom left of Canada. So they're close together is what I'm saying. Anyway, completely irrelevant. I don't see how you can really predict that Seattle would take a guy like Luke Hughes, just because you have to wait for the expansion draft. You have no idea what their needs are going to be.
Their needs are everything. That's just my opinion.
I think it matters how the expansion draft goes. If they look at their lineup after the expansion draft and see, okay, we built this team, let's try to think of what we can add for prospect-wise to a young guy who might potentially play as a rookie this year, and you go from there. I don't think you can just say right now, okay, they're going to take a defenseman, they're going to take a forward, because they don't even have a lineup on paper to justify it with.
Okay, but are they going to get a number one defenseman in the expansion draft?
They will get a player who will turn into their number one defenseman.
I don't think they will. Like, I'm not talking their number one defenseman, a number one defenseman.
I believe that they will get a player who is not
Vegas didn't even. And they're an elite team. They don't have that. I mean, they do now, Pietrangelo, but they signed him 3 or 4 years later. I'm talking that guy who, 28 minutes, stud offense, defense. I just don't think it's necessarily possible that they get a true bona fide Norris Trophy caliber guy. And if they identify someone in the draft of that caliber, they got to go for it.
Yeah, Gonzo wants me to explain about Calgary and Ottawa on the map. I couldn't even give it a college try.
Red Deer is smack dab in the middle of them.
All right. Note to self, no more geography for Joey on this podcast.
Why? I'm trying to figure out this little joke.
I don't know. I thought I was pretty accurate with Seattle and Vancouver.
They're gonna be geographical rivals. I'm not gonna say they're close. They're not Newark, New Jersey, and New York. But I mean,
I guess I'm picturing it right across the border as each other.
No, it's not. I wouldn't say that. Maybe we'll find a map.
Yeah.
I like Luke Hughes to Seattle. I hope I'm wrong because I want the Devils to get him so him and Jack can make brotherly love the way we do on this show.
Yeah, you give me shit all the time because I'm not a Devils fan. Doesn't mean I don't root against them. I just don't really root for them. But I think it would be very, very cool if Luke Hughes went to New Jersey because obviously I think very highly of Jack Hughes. I think he's got such a high ceiling for this league. And I think having your little brother there, holy shit, that's far. Okay. We got to, but that's Vegas. Is it not?
Oh, yeah. We're Vegas to Seattle.
Yeah. Okay. We're looking at Seattle to Vancouver. But anyway, I believe Luke Hughes' little brother being with Jack Hughes, or Jack Hughes' little brother Luke being with him on the same team would be great for both of their careers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Jack could be 100-point guy. I do believe that. He power play, 5-on-5 attack. I think the sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah. See, it's not that far. You can take a train there.
Joey and I, because of this conversation, we're going to clip it and we're going to take a trip to the Pacific Northwest of the United States, see a game in Seattle. Maybe we'll go when they play the Hawks or something, which might be a bad idea because Joey would probably end up rooting for Seattle. But then we'll take a ride up to Vancouver and check out a game there. What do you think?
I mean, those are two places I would love to see. So, yeah. See, look how close Vancouver is to the border. I was spot on. I guess Seattle's a little more south to the border than I thought.
Well, I mean, Washington State and Vancouver, they're going to have natural rivalries just based on that alone. So that's why I think if they drafted Hughes, it would just add to the brotherly kind of thing. And it's a good way for Seattle to market themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we have a Hughes brother. They're becoming the first family of American hockey.
Yeah, I think Luke Hughes is the biggest name to look at in this draft just because of that relation.
But he might not be the best player, which is what it's up to scouts and management teams to decide these things.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I have Devils thoughts. Anaheim's picking third. They could go either way. They need a little bit of everything, but they have a very good prospect pool. I like Jamie Drysdale. I love Trevor Zegras. They got some good NHL forwards up front that have been coming through the system over the years, like Sam Steele and guys like that. They have a really good goalie in John Gibson if they decide to keep him throughout all of this. And if Luke falls to the Devils, I'm taking him. If Power falls to the Devils, I'm taking him. There's also Eklund, who played with Holtz for Desjardins in Sweden. So there's a lot of different opportunities for New Jersey to take advantage of that fourth spot. And then after pick 5, anything can happen.
Yeah, and then, as we know, we have the Blackhawks down number 11. And I believe Santiago asked if we think the Hawks could target a goalie. I don't know the goalie market in this draft. Do you know of any goalies that are potential first round players?
Yeah, I would suggest Santiago stay for overtime because that is the big key article that I'm premiering in the overtime. We're talking about the one goalie that I think could be available for the Hawks in the draft at pick number 11. But I do have my best available players that are not the goalie that I think the Hawks could take a look at. And the first one is another Michigan guy. I mean, a big draft for Michigan. There are probably some people locally that listen to this show that support the blue. Owen Powers from there. Ben Years is from there. And then Luke Hughes is going to go there for one season next year. And this is Kent Johnson. You're seeing highlights of him right now. He will probably be available at 11. He's kind of slowly but surely becoming my guy. You know how you always have a guy in the draft? Like for me in 2019, I had two guys, and they were Cole Caulfield and Trevor Zegras. I did not want the Blackhawks to draft Kirby Dach. I actually wanted the Hawks to go with Bowen Byram. Bowen Byram wasn't my guy. I just thought he was the best defenseman and like a true future number one guy, and that's what the Hawks need most. So I think that was a mistake. But in terms of like guys that I knew were going to kind of fall a little bit, but I thought that would be a mistake. Like the non-obvious ones is what I mean by like your guy. Like Bowen Byram was obvious. Jack Hughes was obvious. Like when I say I have a guy, I mean like he might not be like the highest touted. For me, it's Kent Johnson. Like I totally think this kid, after a year at Michigan, he's got what I consider like a quiet mind. He just has sweet hands around the net, and he's nasty. And yeah, he's playing with some good players in Michigan. You saw Ben Years there on the ice with Johnson, and he's probably going to be the number one pick. But I mean, Owen Powers there. And, you know, it's a great program right now in the Big Ten hockey, but I really like this guy.
Yeah, he's kind of small. He looks a little small. I don't know how tall they have him listed at, but he looks like a little guy who can get it done offensively.
And that's why he might fall. And I hate that because, like, look at what Cole Caulfield's doing. Mm-hmm. He got scratched in the first game of the playoffs against the Leafs, and I hated every second of it. Like, what are you doing, Montreal? They insert him. They all of a sudden win a bunch of games in a row. He's been one of their best forwards, I would say. You're always going to get some veterans that step up in the playoffs. Like, I really admire what Corey Perry's doing for Montreal. But, I mean, Cole Caulfield is awesome, and he set up a game-winning goal to send the Habs to the third round last 2 nights ago. I my days are all together. Mm-hmm. I totally think making a guy fall just because of that. If you're a good hockey player, like who are the last 2 best offensive players over the past decade or so, not including like the new generation, not McKinnon, not McDavid. Like to me, it's Patrick Kane and Sidney Crosby. Both of them are 5'10" or 5'11", whatever it is. You know, under 6 feet, I guess is the best way. Yeah. I don't care about that stuff. Kent Johnson is awesome. He would be my pick at 11 if he's available, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he goes like 6 or 7.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, the second guy I have listed, if Kent Johnson's gone or for some reason they don't view him properly, is Cole Sillinger. And Cole Sillinger, and I could be saying these names wrong, like I said, haven't watched as much because they didn't play. And there was no Memorial Cup this year. And these junior games weren't on NHL Network because they weren't existing. Like I normally watch all this stuff. NHL Network's on my TV 24/7. And I watch a lot of major junior. Didn't get a chance to see Cole Sillinger this year because he played for the Medicine Hat Tigers 2 years ago. And that's a league in the WHL that didn't play in time. And he wanted to showcase himself for his draft year. And they definitely didn't get started in time for him to do that. So they loaned him to the USHL, where he played for the Sioux Falls Stampede, and he was brilliant. So if the WHL would have played, he probably might even be higher on this list just because he would have gotten to showcase himself against better talent. But I'm a big fan of this kid as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these like up and coming offensive guys, they're not playing with their size. It just shows the direction the game is going.
No, and over the last like 4 or 5 years, though, I think size has become an issue again because there were finesse teams that won the cup a bunch of years in a row. The Blackhawks, the Penguins, and a lot of their leaders were on the smaller side. You think about guys like Connor Sherry and Gensel and Crosby. But they also had big guys like Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang. Like those guys are towers. Blackhawks, Kane, I mean. Now they have DeBrincat, but before that it was Panarin. Before him, Hossa was a big guy. I like a good mix. If you can score and create offense and you're agile enough to avoid taking devastating hits, draft him. Like Cole Caulfield. He's a small kid. He's going to get roughed up a little bit. It doesn't matter. He's a great player. And there are a bunch of different ways to win the cup. You could be like the Bruins or the Kings or the Blues even, who have a bunch of big players. They're all huge. Then you got teams like the Hawks who are on the smaller side for the most part, but they also had some big people that people kind of forget. It's about a good mix. It's kind of like veterans and youngsters. Like you just need a good mix.
Yeah, and I looked up a little more on Cole, and his father actually played in the NHL for 17 seasons. He seemed like he was kind of a journeyman in the NHL. He played with a lot of different teams, Mike Sillinger. And, he wasn't like a top guy. I think his career best is, I'm seeing 59 points. But, yeah, he comes from a hockey family, apparently.
If you get a guy with a 60-point ceiling in the middle of the first round, some people might think that that's bad. That's really good. Go back and Google your favorite teams, like last 10 draft picks. Chances are less than half of them ended up being predominant 60-point players in the league.
Yeah.
The third guy I have on my list is Fedor Svechkov. What nationality do you think he is?
They go like, I don't know, Egypt.
Italian.
He's from Egypt, probably, or something.
He is Russian. And he's set to play for SKA St. Petersburg. I'm sure that's a surprise to you that the team whose owner is also the president, they get lots of good players. And Svechkov is going to play for them. And he played for the VHL and MHL, which are they're like the KHL's version of
juniors,
the AHL and juniors. And so he's going to play for SKA next year, and he's a great player. SKA's an awesome team. They're primarily the best team in the KHL every year.
Who's still on that team? Is Datsuk still playing there? And
honestly, I don't think so. I know that's where like Kovalchuk went when he retired.
Mm-hmm.
And
Aaron came from that team.
Merritt came from there. Nikita Gusev came from there. Kaprasov, I believe, played there as well. Lots of guys go back there. They're a very wealthy team, and they can afford to pay these guys, and that's probably where he's going to play. They get all the best players, and they win lots of titles. I know they did. I don't think they won it this year. I know Kovalchuk went there and then left like 3 days later because he likes to leave places. But I mean, Svechkov, he's a good player. We'll see if he ends up getting drafted. I know sometimes those guys who play in the KHL fall a little bit just out of fear that they don't end up coming over to the United States. But, I mean, what are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, that would be cool, especially if they hit on a guy like that. I mean, we saw how good and what success Artemi Panarin had with the Chicago Blackhawks. Like, just sometimes, and players that come from that team, it seems like every guy that comes from over in the KHL who played for SKA ends up being a successful NHL guy. So, I mean, if they were able to land him, and especially if he were to hit like that, that would be really cool for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Absolutely. And the Hawks do well with the Russian players coming out of SKA and just the KHL in general. And you saw with Panarin. Now, Panarin was an undrafted player, and, Stan Bowman, Mark Kelly, those guys deserve credit for identifying Panarin and getting him to choose them over the Leafs, because I know that was like the two teams that could have landed him outside of him coming over. And so we wish Fedor Svechkov well in his season with the KHL coming up here, and it'd be nice to see the Hawks get a player of that kind of caliber. But Kent Johnson's my guy.
Interesting. And we'll take note of all these names. I mean, we got them written down. So July 23rd is the first round of the NHL draft. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and we're going to have a mock draft. Well, I'm going to have my mock draft.
I'll host it. I'll ask you your picks. I'll host it, and I'll keep track of what you pick.
Yeah, I mean, we can have a long period on this show and dedicate a bunch of time to that. That's coming up. I'm very excited for the draft. I love it. I feel like over the last 3 or 4 years, I've become like a first round scout. Like I've just known the first round inside and out for the last couple of years. But I mean, when it becomes your job, it's your job, and it's not always like the funnest thing either, because there's room for error.
Oh yeah, big time.
You're gonna have a good take when it comes to the draft, and you're gonna have some brutal takes. Like, I'm trying to think of a bad take I had in the draft. I know a really good take was I would have drafted Byram third. And if I were the Avalanche in that situation, not getting Byram, I would not have taken Doc. I would have taken Zegras. Like, I think that highly of Zegras. So
yeah, he played a little bit toward the end of Anaheim's season, and he was like pretty damn good.
yeah, he's so sweet, dude.
Yeah.
So that was one of my better takes. I guess my one bad take I can think of, I used to think Heiskanen was way better than Makar.
Yeah, you're crazy.
I still think he's very good, and I still think there's potential for that to happen. But Makar is just unbelievable. We're going to mention him a little bit later on a certain note, which I think it's about time we get there anyway. You want to talk some NHL awards?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Let's take it over to period number 2. So we got 2 things to talk about here in period number 2. And the first one is just a bit of like a news type of deal. We're going to make our picks on these closer to the actual NHL awards. Do you remember what 2 we gave last week?
We've talked about the
Vezina trophy.
The Vezina and the Ted Lindsay.
The Ted Lindsay, okay. Now, there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 NHL awards that involve players. We're going to get into the Willie O'Ree Award next week because we're going to dedicate a little more time to the actual importance of those people. They're not NHL players nominated for that. I want to get into that, give them kind of their own space because they deserve it. Some very cool people out there. This one is going to be all about the players that are nominated for these awards, and we're going to make our picks later, closer to the NHL awards. That'll be after the Stanley Cup final is over and the cup is awarded. But let's start with the Calder Trophy. It's the Minnesota Wild's Kirill Kaprizov. Now I'm drawing a blank on his first name. Robertson. Is it David Robertson?
That's
whatever. And then Nedeljkovic, the goalie for the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, we're not giving picks, but I mean, this one's kind of a lock in a way.
Jason Robertson. Sorry.
Jason Robertson. That's right. David Robertson was the closer for the White Sox a couple
that name sounds familiar. Anyway, I love seeing a goalie on this list.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's well deserved. He by far was the best, rookie goalie, and he brought Carolina to where they were. And we'll talk about their series and how it ended a little later on. But I mean, Alex Nedeljkovic was awesome this year for the Carolina Hurricanes, and he kind of took over for an injured Peter Mrazek. Mm-hmm.
Right? Didn't he get hurt and then Nedeljkovic got to play and he went on a run? And
I don't know if it was he was hurt.
He got Wally pipped.
If there was COVID issues or something.
Yeah, he was out.
He was out, and Nedeljkovic, they pretty much split for a good portion of the year too. Like even when both were healthy, but I mean, I feel like Nedeljkovic was the better guy, and he proved it in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Do you understand that Wally Pipp reference?
No.
I might be the youngest person on the planet who would get that reference. Kind of like
someone got hurt and
yeah, Wally Pipp got hurt and Lou Gehrig took his spot and became like one of the greatest baseball players who ever lived.
I mean, I know like a similar thing happened with like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
Tom Brady,
that's it. Yeah.
Brett Favre retired 1,000 times, but his departure from the Packers led to Aaron Rodgers coming in. Tom Brady took Drew Bledsoe's job when Drew Bledsoe got hurt, is what happened. The King Clancy Award. That is going to go to one of Curtis Gabriel of the San Jose Sharks, Pekka Rinne of the Nashville Predators, or PK Subban of the New Jersey Devils. And the King Clancy Trophy is given to the National League hockey player who best exemplifies leadership qualities on and off the ice and has made a significant humanitarian contribution to his community. And so basically what that means is it's the good guy off the ice award, right? So like I know Curtis Gabriel is very vocal about his everyone can play thing he's got going on. He's always wearing the pride tape and stuff like that. So he's a good dude. Pekka Rinne and PK Subban are always involved in charitable organizations. So it's good to see these three names on the board. Thoughts on them?
Yeah, I feel like PK Subban is there every year.
I don't think he's won it either.
I don't think so either. Every team has a nominee, I believe.
Yes.
And then
they
then
narrow it down to three. Yeah.
Because I mean, every team, every player, not every player, but most players have a guy or a few guys who do tremendous work with their communities. That's just, it's a professional athlete's duty, almost, you can say. And those are your top three. And I feel like PK is up there every year. I remember when he was in Montreal, he donated like $10 million over a span. And people were a little mad that he didn't win it that year. He's done great work for a lot of cities because he didn't, back down from doing that stuff over in Nashville. And now he's continuing it in New Jersey. So, I mean, I would love to see PK Subban win it. It's great to see Pekka Rinne up there. And I don't know what work these guys do, but I mean, this is an awesome award and it's really cool. And it gets kind of emotional during the NHL awards when they show what these guys are doing off the ice.
Absolutely. There's a lot of problems in the world and not a lot of people get along. And I know hockey has its issues too internally in terms of like bullying and stuff like that. But there are some good guys and that's just undeniable. And I love seeing them get rewarded. PK Subban, I'll say it, he's been a disappointment with the New Jersey Devils. When they traded for him, I thought they were getting a number 1D, probably the best defenseman they've had in, 10 years. They haven't had a number 1D since Rafalski? I mean, it's been a while. Even when they went to the Cup in 2012, it was all committee, Volchenkov and Jidlitsky and Andy Green. Like, they were led by their forwards, Zach Parise and Kovalchuk and Henrique. Like, but Subban, man, for all his faults on the ice, I love that guy. I would do anything for him. He's just a great dude. I'm sorry. I'm rooting for him to win it. I'm not making my pick until later. But if I got to choose who would win, he'd get my vote.
Yeah, and whoever does win it gets $25,000, donated to their charity, given to them by the NHL. And then the second and third place both get $5,000 each as well. And in case you're wondering, the Chicago Blackhawks had their nominee Connor Murphy, and the Bruins had Charlie Coyle.
Very good. Very good. Good updates. The Lady Bing is kind of like the same award, but for your on the ice stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the good guy on the ice, even though
who's not a scumbag when you're playing against them.
Well, and I actually think there's statistics that go into it. There's penalty minutes, there's gentlemanly conduct, and it goes to the player judged to have exhibited the best type of sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with a high standard of playing ability. So you can't be like a fourth liner, I don't think, and just be like a nice guy. Like, I think you need to be like an elite player. Mm-hmm. And that would make sense why the three nominees are Austin Matthews, Jacob Slavin, and Jared Spurgeon, of course, of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Carolina Hurricanes, and Minnesota Wild, respectively. There's one name on this list that cracks me up.
Is it Austin Matthews?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he might get like a little amount of penalty minutes, and that might be the reason he's on the list, and he's an elite player.
I feel like he's got a competitive edge to him that
exactly. Yeah. He doesn't give me Lady Bing vibes.
No.
Like, that's just my personal opinion. I love Austin Matthews. He's the
best player on the list.
Over the next 5 years, I like to get one jersey a year. I'm a big jersey guy. I like to buy jerseys. It's just something I enjoy spending my money on. And Austin Matthews is on that list. I will own a Matthews jersey. And so this isn't a slight on him, but when I see him on the ice and he's yucking it up with the other team, and you got guys dragging on his back neck with his jersey, and he's making like funny faces, like making fun of them, he doesn't give me Lady Bing feels. But I guess in terms of like penalties and, cross checks and all that kind of stuff, he's deemed to be a Lady Bing type player by the voters.
Yeah, and a good name that I like seeing is Jared Spurgeon. First year as the captain, correct, of Minnesota. So, I mean, I don't know much about him. He just seems like a quiet guy, and I guess when you don't hear a lot about someone, it must be good because I could totally see him being one of those guys that's just well respected around the league. A guy that I think Austin Matthews might have replaced is Tyler Seguin. It seems like he's always on this list. He was hurt for most of this year, so he didn't get really a chance to play and earn that spot. But I feel like Tyler Seguin's a guy who's always in the Lady Bing conversation.
Yeah, Ryan O'Reilly too. There was the year O'Reilly won it, and that year he had 2 penalty minutes, and it was for playing with a broken stick. It wasn't even like an infraction against an opponent. It was just like a slight rule breaker. I'm pretty sure it was playing with a broken stick. Or or was it delay a game? It was one of those where like it wasn't a penalty against an opponent. It was like an accident on himself.
Yeah, and he does, as Santiago says, Tyler Seguin loves to party off the ice, but I mean, he's a good guy on the ice.
Fun fact about NHL players, and I know this from reliable sources, people I've talked to, every player in the National Hockey League loves to party off the ice. That's just a fact. Anyone naive to it doesn't pay attention. Every player gets after it.
And to answer your question, will I still have all the Bruins stuff after they get eliminated tonight? I will have it up, especially into round 3 when they go on to play the Tampa Bay Lightning after they win the next 2 against the New York Islanders. So yeah,
save it for later, bro. We have it written down. What's the matter with you?
I mean, that's previewing. Now he wants to hear us talking about it, so he's going to stick around.
I'm going to leave it mostly to you too. Like that's your business. I mean, I'll chime in. I have my opinions, but I mean, first we'll finish off the NHL awards, eh?
Yeah.
Masterton Trophy. An award that's kind of near and dear to my heart because 2 Devils that I love have won it. And the Masterton Trophy is awarded to the National Hockey League player who best exemplifies the qualities of perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. Now, we talked a couple weeks ago. Someone asked us, I want to say it was on Crosstown Crosstalk. Someone asked us why we're obsessed with sports. Why do we like sports so much? And like I said, I'll say that same answer to that audience as I will to this one. Nothing in life shows you how to be a part of a team more than sports. You know, there's individual things that happen in sports. You score a goal, on your own, like that's on you, but you did it to help your team. There's no I in team. And, one thing I've learned through playing sports is how to live in the real world. Nothing can get done without your teammates. And so this award goes to the guys who best exemplify that. And a lot of them overcome adversity off the playing field, in this case, an ice surface, to get back. And they do it for themselves, but they do it for their team too. And so that's why Minnesota Wild's Matt Dumba, Philadelphia Flyers' Oscar Lindblom, and San Jose Shark Patrick Marleau are the 3 nominees for this list. We're not making predictions for the most of these awards, but I think we can talk about who we think is going to win this one.
Who do you think? Patrick Marleau?
No, I absolutely think it's going to be Oscar Lindblom.
Yeah.
I mean, he was diagnosed with cancer real bad in 2019, 2020, and it cost him the season, but he was able to come back in the bubble, the return to play bubble following COVID-19's pause of the season / canceling of the season. And he played, and he came back. He didn't have his hair anymore. It was tough, but he did it, and he played this year, and he's doing real well. And it's great to see. I'm rooting for him to win it.
Yeah, I definitely think, he's the front runner. I mean, you look at the list of the team, like you can only pick 3 nominees, but you look at the list of players that every team submitted, and it's just a good list. It kind of makes you feel good. Like when you think about the meaning of the trophy and seeing these guys, and then knowing that like these guys are dedicated to the sport of hockey and how much they give up and they put their bodies on the line. Like you got Chicago's nominee, Andrew Shaw. We saw him this year had to retire at 29 years old. That sucks. You have David Backes in Anaheim. Kevin Miller for Boston underwent, 4 knee surgeries in the past 2 years. He hasn't played a game in like 700 days before this year, came back and was an excellent defenseman for them. And he's still battling injuries. And then just you go up and down the list. It's just people who put their bodies and lives on the line to play in the NHL and show their dedication to this game. And I think Oscar Lindblom is definitely the front runner for this trophy.
Absolutely. I think of last year with Bobby Ryan and everything he overcame to get back to playing at a high level. I believe it was, I don't want to speculate or say anything wrong. It was something to do with, him not being right. And then Robin Leonard with his mental health the year before that. We all know how important that is. And, it hits home here. So, and then there's Brian Boyle, who for the New Jersey Devils overcame cancer himself. So it's good to see these guys get an opportunity to tell their story and show why they love hockey.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
The Norris Trophy. We just got these today. And Adam Fox of the New York Rangers, Victor Hedman of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche. This one is going to probably spark the most debate amongst us once we get to that portion of the NHL award season. But I mean, these are three studs.
Mm-hmm. I think it's the closest one that we have. I mean, there's one that we haven't talked about yet. We're probably talking about it next that I think we're going to disagree on, but I think we agree on this one for the most part. And for me, I think Adam Fox is the front runner. I would love to see Cale Makar win it. But I think Adam Fox is the clear front runner. I think he was the best defenseman throughout the year. He was probably the most consistent. I know the Rangers didn't necessarily make the playoffs, and they didn't get to where they wanted, come year's end, but it would have been a much of a harder time to be where they were at without Adam Fox. And I think he was that important to that team. Victor Hedman was great. Cale Makar, we all know how high I think of Cale Makar. We talked about, players we were loyal to in the draft, and we were at that draft when he was drafted. So I'll always have a special place in my heart for Cale Makar, but I think he has plenty of bright things ahead of him. Adam Fox, for me, I mean, that's the name I'm looking at.
And for those who don't know, Joey named his car Kale. Joe, why did you name your car Kale?
Because it's Makar.
Okay, so I totally think that Victor Hedman...
As if everyone doesn't think I'm a clown already.
So I totally think Victor Hedman's the best defenseman in the league on an overall scope. I don't think he's going to win this trophy. You'll hear who I do think is going to win later. If you can craft a defenseman in a laboratory, or as Dexter would say, my laboratory, I think it would come out as Victor Hedman. He's just perfect. Mm-hmm. He's a perfect defenseman. And just because I don't think you're necessarily going to win the award this year doesn't mean I think you're overall the best. Like, there are going to be years where McDavid doesn't win the Hart Trophy. That doesn't mean I don't think he's the best player. Like, McDavid's better than Taylor Hall, Nathan McKinnon, Patrick Kane, all guys who have won this award or been in the conversation over the years. So just, stay tuned for our picks on that. It was pointed out to me that I actually jumped right over a list here, and it's probably your favorite award.
Yeah, that's what I was saying that we're probably going to disagree on. I thought we were just doing that one next. I was just going in whatever order you put them up.
Yeah, so that would be the Selke Trophy. And the Frank J. Selke Trophy is awarded to the National Hockey League forward who demonstrates the most skill in the defensive component of the game. Now, I think this is a very flawed award because they give it to a guy who's really good on defense, but he also has an insane amount of points. Sometimes I think they look at points a little too much for this award because, the nominees are Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers, Mark Stone of the Vegas Golden Knights, and Patrice Bergeron of your Boston Bruins. What are your thoughts on the Selke Trophy as a whole?
As a whole, I think it's good. I think for the most part, they get it right. At least with the people in the conversation. We haven't had a non-winger win it since, 2003? I don't even remember.
It's been a long time. Marian Hossa never won one, even though I think he deserved it a time or two.
Yeah, I meant non-center. We never had a winger win it since who knows when. It's mainly been centers. With that being said, I think this is the first year where you have, a legitimate case in Mark Stone. We'll see what happens. But Patrice Bergeron, I'm waiting for them to change the name of it from Frank J. Selke to Patrice, whatever his middle initial is, Bergeron, because This
We'll
is
send
his
the manual.
Yeah, he's how long's Bergeron been in the year? It's got to be, approaching 15 years ish.
Yeah.
This is his 10th straight Selke nominee. That's 10 straight trips to Vegas to be at the NHL awards, and he's won it 4 times, tied for most in the National League's history. So I'd love to see him get one more to, take sole possession of most Selke Trophy wins. Not that it means much, but I mean, it kind of just speaks to the type of player he is and how consistently good he's been throughout his career to be nominated for this thing, top 3, 10 straight seasons. So that's what you get with Patrice Bergeron. But I mean, there's some great nominees this year.
Everything I said about Victor Hedman with the Norris Trophy and like Connor McDavid with the Hart Trophy, I totally feel the same way about Patrice Bergeron with the Selke Trophy. He's the best overall defensive forward in the league. There might be one guy who has a slightly better individual year, but in the grand scheme of things, under the umbrella of defensive forwards, I'm taking Patrice Bergeron. I'm not sure who I think is going to win it.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. Honestly, like, I would vote for Bergeron because I see this guy play every single game. I haven't missed him play a game in the past decade. So I've seen it firsthand. I haven't seen every single player play every single game. And Patrice Bergeron, he does it all. He is just, and there's a reason. It's non-debatable that over the span of their careers, he has been consistently the best defensive forward. It's undebatable with 10 straight nominees.
I couldn't agree more. Barkov, we're not even giving him enough flavor. We had a debate amongst friends and our cousin earlier. I want to say it was last week or the week before. I believe if the league were redrafted right now and they had a lottery for the first pick and you're drafting the league in a situation like that, young players who are elite would probably take precedence because if you draft Crosby, you're only getting them for like 5 or 6 more years. But if you draft a younger guy, you're getting him from 10 to 15. I believe Alexander Barkov would be a top 5 pick right now. He is that good.
I remember you saying that, and I think very highly of Barkov, but I don't know about a top 5 pick if you're redrafting the entire league. I think that's crazy. There's, we mentioned names. We're not going to get into a whole debate now on this, but you're saying you would take him over like Kucherov is crazy to me. But I think he's a great player, and I think he's up there with, the up and coming best, pure like 200-foot game centerman in the NHL. He's up there with the best. Yeah, I agree with that. But
I mean, if I said this in 2005 about Bergeron, people would have said the same thing to me. And looking back, you're taking Bergeron top 5 over the last decade or more. You are. Because his 90 points opposed to Kucherov's 100 points. I know there was the outlier 120-point season for Kucherov, but that's not the normal. 100 points-ish. And if Barkov's getting 90, but he's that much better defensively, Kucherov's defensively, I'm taking the guy with 10 less points, but a better all-around game.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he gives the Florida Panthers an incredibly higher chance to win than if you replaced him with a 100-point winger.
I don't know if I can back that.
But you understand why he's a Selke Trophy nominee for sure.
Absolutely. And then there's Mark Stone, who's a winger on this list, who I think deserves it probably more than any other winger. I think of another winger, it's Patrice Bergeron's line mate, Brad Marchand. He's the best penalty killer in the league, and I think he got votes. It'll be interesting to see the top 5, top 10. If Brad Marchand's not there, I'd be very shocked. He was the best penalty killer all season long, and they look at that stuff. Most shorthanded goals in the entire National Hockey League. A plus minus is something that goes into it, and takeaways, and Marchand is amongst the top in terms of wingers. So,
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I don't think there's a wing like Marchand. He's in that conversation for wingers, but Stone is just far and ahead better. He's the closest thing to Marian Hossa, and it's not particularly close. He's worth every penny. We'll talk about him in a little bit, what he did yesterday. But to close out the period, you want to go over the series that are over really quick?
Yeah, so we saw Montreal complete a sweep against the Winnipeg Jets. And I mean, talk about me just being wrong when it comes to Montreal from the moment this season started. All I have to do is just this. This is what I do to them. I tip my hat because they're getting it done. They're getting goals from Corey Perry. They're getting the goaltending, and I'll talk about that later, from Carey Price. Cole Caulfield is setting up game-winning goals to Tyler Toffoli, who was one of the best goal scorers all season long. And they look good. And I don't know if I can consider like that division. Like, yeah, they won the division. They are the North Division champions. Now the true test, and I can't count them out because every time I count them out, it slaps me in the face. So I'm not going to sit here and say, though, they're going to get destroyed by either Vegas or Colorado.
I'm not saying that.
I can't say that anymore because they just keep proving me wrong. The Montreal Canadiens are legit, and it'll be very interesting. I'm so excited to see whoever they play, whether it be Vegas or Colorado. I hope it's Colorado. I'm excited to see this team play, and I'm excited to see if they can keep it up because what I'm seeing from Carey Price and Tyler Toffoli is fun stuff.
Absolutely. No one gave him a chance in either series. And what is the winning streak? 7 in a row now because they won 3 straight against Toronto and then swept Winnipeg. They're just one of those teams, man. They got it figured out right now. Tyler Toffoli's been amazing. Paul Byron has been awesome. Katko Niemi is a sweet player. You know, they're figuring it out.
Not to mention a guy I've always been a fan of, you know, watching him at the All-Star games going up against my guy is Shea Weber, the captain of that team. I think he's been phenomenal as well. And then the other series, we saw the Tampa Bay Lightning beat the Carolina Hurricanes in 5 games. So 2 early series over here, and then we got 2 series on the other side. Who knows how long these ones are going to go? Hopefully 7. But we have a 5-game series and a 4-game series, and I'm not surprised one bit here. I said at our show last week, I believe Tampa was up 2-0. They won both games in Carolina, and I didn't feel comfortable taking Tampa in that game 3 because like I don't see them going up 3-0. So they did lose that game. It was a smart call by me. They lost game 3 in Tampa Bay at the Amalie Arena, and then it was all Tampa from there on out. They won game 4. They won yesterday. I think it was yesterday, right? To close out that series against Carolina in Carolina. So Tampa Bay takes it home and made easy work of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Absolutely. I'm a little surprised. I think Carolina was slightly better on paper this year. I know Tampa Bay is the defending Stanley Cup champions, but I think the reason I was higher on Carolina going in was because of how hard it is to go back-to-back. I mean, we don't see it hardly ever. So, I don't know. I'm a little surprised by that, but Tampa Bay versus the winner of Boston, New York should be fun. Montreal kind of proved to me the North Division stunk. It was horrible. The Oilers, they're not a good team. They have McDavid and Draisaitl getting 100 points in a short season. Like, come on. You know, someone in the chat, that's Gonzo, does McDavid need to get out of Edmonton when the time comes? I don't know. Because it's hard to build a team around a $12.5 million contract. And the Oilers, they're just kind of like a bad franchise. They have these 2 pillars, and they let the Jets sweep them, and then the Jets went and got swept by Montreal. So what does that do for the Oilers? How does that make them feel? I don't know. I just think the Leafs were the only elite team, and they leafed.
It seems like every year I call it a sweep train. Like when you sweep someone, and then you get swept in the next round.
It does seem that way. Remember when that was Carolina last year?
That's what I'm saying.
Someone, and then they got, or 2 years ago. In the last year was weird. The year before.
No, I think it happened last year too, because Boston swept Carolina.
Yeah, but the Bruins didn't get swept.
No, but I think Carolina swept someone before that.
Oh, the Rangers.
Yeah, I don't know. I call it a sweep train. I would love to see, Montreal get swept now.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, if that happens, then that just proves everyone's theory that the North Division stinks. But I mean, I'm not going to say that anymore. I'm done saying that about the Montreal Canadiens. They're proving me wrong. They keep winning, and it's hard to say that when you got Carey Price playing the way he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, if the Bruins lose tonight, I will be of the opinion, because I had them in this conversation. I mean, I still kind of think the better team doesn't always win. Like, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I mean, Vegas, Tampa, and Carolina, and Colorado seem to just be a little bit above everyone else. I want the Bruins to be in that conversation. We'll see what they can do here. But I mean, it's been heavy with those 4 teams this season.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into the ongoing series in period number 3. But before that, let's have a little commercial break. And make sure you go to deepdishtees.com/barroom and make sure you purchase all the barroom sweet stuff. I mean, dude, did you see some of that stuff? The t-shirts, the caps, the mugs with our BarDown Blackhawk Talk logo on it. The South Burbs Hitman stuff is so sweet. That logo's awesome, and I love those guys. And I can't wait to see our Crosstown Crosstalk logo on some stuff because that logo makes me happy.
Yeah, I need a mug. That's what I want to start drinking my diet sodas out of. I think that'd be cool.
That's actually a really good idea. I think I'll be more into that in the winter because I don't really drink hot beverages over the summer. It makes my body feel weird.
Yeah, you don't need to drink a hot beverage out of a mug, though, do you?
Yeah, I know. But what am I going to do? Slug a Red Bull or a Coca-Cola out of the mug? I mean,
yeah, branding. It's all.
You're not wrong. You know what? I actually don't hate that idea. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll put a little ice. Maybe a great tasting, less filling on a Thursday afternoon. Great day to drink Thursday.
What do you think Jimmy Fallon has in his mug on the Tonight Show? It's water.
Yeah, it's probably like whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Fallon, but
we should talk some Fever Pitch on Crosstown Crosstalk one of these days.
Fever Pitch, it's all time. I love that movie.
Oh, me too.
Probably my favorite love story movie, I guess. Romance, you can call it.
Yeah, and I haven't had my girlfriend watch that yet. I totally think she should because, like, I am Ben Reitman, right? I mean, my life is my teams outside of my family and friends.
Yeah, I would say I'm a little more like obsessed in terms of when it comes to missing a game. Like, it doesn't happen. I have lobster fingers like he does at the restaurant.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way, dude. Except for me, it's like 3 or 4 teams as opposed to just one.
Yeah, but like I'm the weirdo who records games and stays off social media.
Yeah, I do the same thing if I have to miss, or I'll just watch it on the go. Like I've watched Devils games in the weirdest spots to watch Devils games, like fancy dinners where I should not be on my phone. I almost got threatened one time to be booted out of a trivia game at a bar because I was like watching the Devils and they thought I was cheating on the game. I'm like, I'm not looking shit up. I could truly care less. I want to watch the Devils. And for the most part, little takes precedence to like me hoping that my teams are good.
Yeah.
And it's just fun, man. And last night I watched the entire White Sox game twice. That's why I think it's funny when people argue with me about stuff because, like, dude, I watch every game twice. What are you talking about?
One game I will not be watching recorded or on my phone is tonight.
You want to do that one first?
Yeah, I just want to get it out of the way.
All right. Go off, King.
I have not much to go. There's not much to go off on. The Bruins are the better team. They've played better. They've been better. They get more chances. It's just it doesn't go in. You got David Pastrnak hitting the right post on empty net shots. That probably changes the game. Yeah, they won or no, they lost that game. They ended up scoring first anyway, but that would change the game. It's just things aren't going their way right now. Coach Bruce Cassidy fined $25,000 for speaking the truth, and what he essentially said is he called the officials good officials. He says there's a reason that they are where they're at. There's a reason that they get these games, and they do great job officiating. They had an off night. And he gets fined $25,000 for that. It was an absolute joke. The officialing.
Something really quick right there. Carolina Hurricanes head coach Rod Brindamore got fined the exact same 2,500 or 25 whatever it was. 25,000. That's banana lands. He got fined the same 25,000 last year for critiquing the exact same official.
Yeah, correlation maybe, but hats off to Bruce, because the next day he pretty much said the same thing when I believe it was Joe Haggerty who asked him about the fine and what would he think of it. He pretty much said the exact same thing he said that the day before that got him the fine. He said he feels he spoke the truth. He reiterated that he thinks they're great officials and they had an off night. And you're not going to watch that game and tell me that the officiating wasn't called both ways. There was high sticks that went against the Bruins and just flat out weren't called on the Islanders. Whether they were missed or not, you got to be better in these situations. Anyways, the Bruins are down 3-2 to the New York Islanders. Game 6 tonight in New York at the Coliseum. Tuukka Rask is starting, confirmed by Bruce Cassidy after this morning's skate. Is he 100%? I don't know. They're still without Brandon Carlo and Kevin Miller, two of their best defensive defensemen, did not make the trip. And there's a lot of worry going into this game, but I'm confident that if the Bruins play 90% as good as they played in Game 5, they will come out on top tonight.
I couldn't agree more. I'm nervous because a bad bounce, a tough game, the Bruins are out, and then you're automatically less fun of a human being for 3 months. And I don't need that. I don't need less fun, Joey. I mean, that's bullshit. Like, I need you in this house watching the Bees. I need to hear the screams echo through the vents and the walls. And it'll piss me off if they lose. I'm not going to lie. And I also don't want to see those rat Islanders fans happy. That annoys the crap out of me too. But I mean, dude, the Bruins dominated them in the last game. Now, I will say, power play goals are a problem. I know the calls might be bad, but I mean, you got to kill penalties. You just got to do it. I don't care what the call is. Back up your guy. You think it's a bad call, puck don't lie, kill the penalty. The penalty kill needs to be better, and that falls in the hands of the players. I believe Tuukka Rask will be better. He is a generational talent, and I totally think they'll win if they play their game. I just do. Varlamov's a great goalie. He kind of owns the Bruins. Santiago calling Bruins fans rats. I used to think that. Now I kind of think Bruins haters are becoming rats because all they do is say shit about Brad Marchand as if he's like on Tom Wilson's level, and it's kind of annoying because it's just so untrue. Every team in the league would want Brad Marchand. Not every team in the league would want Tom Wilson. And the New York Islander fans are kind of weird. Like, they throw things on the ice that are unnecessary. And, I would have been unhappy with John Tavares too, but some of those people, I don't know, man. But if the Bruins play their game the way that they can, there's no way they lose. Now, if they don't play their game, they can lose because the Islanders are elite. So,
yeah, I think I don't see them not winning tonight. I'm not saying I don't know what's going to happen in Game 7, but after last game and the emotions with the officiating, the fine to Bruce Cassidy for his comments, the Bruins are going to come to play tonight. And Nick Leddy has been awesome, Gonzo, for the New York Islanders. I don't know if you've been watching any of the series. He is still a great Nick Leddy. They have a great defense. Their penalty kill's been good as well. Like, the New York Islanders are a good team. I could do nothing but tip my hat to them. Like you said, Semyon Varlamov has been awesome for them. I miss Ilya Sorokin. I wish he was in net because that Game 1 he started, the Bruins won 5-2. That's not going to be the case because Semyon Varlamov is just a better guy to play against the Boston Bruins. I think the Bruins are going to come to play tonight. They need depth scoring. Jake DeBrusk was scratched in Game 5. I'm interested to see if he'll work his way back into the lineup. And every time he was scratched a lot this year. He wasn't necessarily – he kind of had an off year. Jake DeBrusk slumped hard this year. Every time he was scratched, He came back into the lineup the next game and was better. He scored. So if Jake DeBrusk plays tonight, which I believe he will, look for him to have a good game. And you need more production from Charlie Coyle, Nick Ritchie, that third line. And then if Jake DeBrusk plays there, like those guys need to be better. You can't have David Pastrnak and Brad Marchand scoring all the goals. It's just not going to work. Charlie McAvoy, too many good things to say about him. But like I said, you can't have the top guys doing everything. You need that depth in playoffs. Tonight's the night that they get it.
I just want to challenge one thing you said.
What?
You said you don't know what's going to happen in Game 7, as if they get there, you're not going to walk around town going, there's no way the Bruins lose at home.
Absolutely. We can make a video or something. We could do whatever. I'll preview Game 7 only on Friday night or on Friday during the day.
Yeah, I mean, all right.
or if they win tonight, Thursday, 2 p.m., tune into Crosstown Crosstalk. We can do a little Bruin segment on that. I will preview that. There's a lot that needs to happen tonight. We take it game by game at this point. That's what we're going to be doing with the Colorado Avalanche series as well. I'm ready to get into that when you are. I have not much more to say. I'm sorry if that what did you call it? The argument was weak sauce, Gonzo. There's not much more to say. I'm worried. Your team faces elimination. I'm sure you know how that feels. You don't have. I can't sit here boiling over with confidence, but I'm worried. I'm concerned, but I'm confident that they should be able to get it done.
Yeah, Gonzo says it's good to know Vinny will take the two-way forward than winger, Sod over Breadman. Yeah, no, that is not a fair comparison at all. Artemi Panarin is better at everything, including sleeping or breathing, than Brandon Saad. So, although the Hawks lost 3 trades involving Brandon Saad.
I don't know. Brandon Saad had a big goal yesterday in what series?
Great segue. Wow. You're learning.
I'm getting good at that, huh?
You're learning, eh?
I'm getting good.
Brandon Saad scored a goal in the Colorado Avalanche's 3-2 overtime loss to the Vegas Golden Knights last night. Your Avs are on the brink, man.
It's my luck. I root for teams. The teams are good, and they're both facing elimination now.
Your luck. My teams, every team I root for has been in this dweller for the last 10 years. And other than the White Sox now, they all still stink. And I'm rooting for the Bruins. So, but as far as Vegas, it's over. Done.
Yes.
Because
sorry to interrupt you before. Yes, I always put my money where my mouth is. And you can ask Vinny. That's one thing that I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to make a prediction and pick the other thing or not bet it. I have always put my money where my mouth is. I do have money on the Bruins tonight. So, of course, I'm betting it. -139 I got it at.
They're favored?
Yeah, it's such a joke. They were favored every elimination game last year as well. They're one of those teams it's hard to make money off of, but unless they keep winning.
He's like, but I've done it.
Yeah.
I think Vegas is going to win, and here's why. Vegas is a deeper team, but there might not be a better team, if that makes sense. Colorado's faster. Vegas has better goaltending, slightly. I believe that for game 1, Colorado dominated, and then we came on the next show with them with a 1-0 lead, saying they were as good as the 2013 Blackhawks. Well, since then, they played 3 straight games where Vegas dominated them. But guess what? Game 2, Colorado still won despite getting outshot 2-1. And they got to overtime. And I've said this to you off camera, that when you get a power play in overtime, Cale Makar, Nate McKinnon, and Mikko Rantanen are going to do Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, Nate McKinnon things. That's what they did. They won the game. 2-0 series lead. But in games 3 and 4, man, Vegas dominated, and they won again. And then in game 5 yesterday, Colorado dominated the first 2 periods. They had a 2-0 lead. Looked like they were going to cruise to this win in the game 5 and have a chance to eliminate the Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas tomorrow. Well, Vegas put on a show in the 3rd period. They tied them up in shots. They tied them up on the scoreboard. And our guy, Mark Stone, with the OTGWG, I don't see them losing this series. I honestly think they're going to close it out at home in Vegas tomorrow night. And that's my take.
This one is way more of a toss-up. I think Colorado, they've been my team. I also, along with, I think it was Gonzo, who said that I'm wearing his projection from the beginning. That is my cup as well. I have Boston playing Colorado in the Stanley Cup final. I think there's Colorado's got to win a game in Vegas. They got to get it done. And then, you win the President's Trophy for a reason, to get that home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. They won it from Vegas, and I'll be surprised if they can't they've lost, 2 in a row now? Is it 2 or 3? No, it was 2 in a row.
Who?
Colorado. Vegas won the last 2, right?
3.
They did win the last 3.
It was a 2-0 series lead.
Yeah, that's okay. That's right. Colorado's not the team that loses 4 in a row. That's my logic going into it.
It's tough.
That's the only reason why. And I'm not saying the series are kind of reminiscent of each other. Game 1, Vegas started Robin Leonard. Game 1, the Islanders started Sorokin. Colorado destroyed Robin Leonard. Boston destroyed Sorokin. They switched goalies back, Varlamov and now Fleury, and both goalies have been awesome. So I'm kind of getting, reminiscent vibes. I think both teams will force Game 7. I'm a little more confident that Boston can get it done, but Vegas is tough. I think this is the toughest series by far for both of these teams. I think Montreal is shaking in their boots watching these teams go at it.
They're probably the 2 best teams in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, they play dominant hockey, and so it sucks that Colorado is in this position from my point of view, but from Vegas's point of view, you got to feel comfortable going home up 3-2. But I mean, Colorado's not going to go down without a fight. Look for the best game we've seen yet from them tomorrow.
Absolutely. And, I got some things to say about Vegas that I'm going to save for after they either win the cup or are eliminated. But, man, I'm just proud of that team. So it was a good 3 periods. We're going to surprise folks with a little bit of overtime. Welcome to overtime. Joseph, your goalie talk.
Yeah, there's honestly we have 4 series going on. There's not a lot of goalie stuff happening except for the goalies that are really playing right now. And the best goalie of the playoffs, in my opinion, thus far is Carey Price. He had a shutout in Game 2. He's tied with Andrei Vasilevsky for 8 wins. They both won their series. 8 wins. He's got a 0.197 save percent or goals against average. That's second place, only behind Marc-Andre Fleury, who has also been unbelievable, a Vezina nominee. But this playoffs, it's been Carey Price for me, and he's got a 0.935 save percentage, which is first amongst all remaining playoff goalies. Carey Price is getting it done in Montreal. There's no doubt that he is the Carey Price that was nominated for the Hart Trophy way back. Did he win the Hart Trophy?
Yes.
He is playing that style of hockey, MVP of the league. That's what he's playing like right now, and he's giving Montreal a legitimate shot to be contenders this year. Next, the 2 goalies who are going at it, I have Tuukka Rask and Semyon Varlamov. Varlamov has been unbelievable against the Boston Bruins. He was all year long in the regular season. And then recently in Game 5, he makes 40 saves on 44 shots to carry the New York Islanders to a Game 5 victory, giving them the 3-2 series lead. He is keeping the New York Islanders in control of this series, and the Bruins need to figure him out if they want to win this thing. Tonight's the night to do that. And then on the other end, you have Tuukka Rask. He only played 40 minutes in that Game 5. He's not 100%. He dealt with some injuries in the season. He had a long time out with a back injury. Their number 2 goalie, Jeremy Swayman, came in. He won the number 2 spot from Yaroslav Halak toward the end of the season. Swayman was unbelievable. Only lost 2 games in his entire career so far. And he came in period number 3. He gave up 1 goal, but for the most part, he looked good. It was announced today that Tuukka Rask is starting after the morning skate this morning. So we'll see how Tuukka does. He's not 100%. I believe it is his back. He just looks that way as he gets up a little slower sometimes. His movements from side to side. You watch someone play long enough, you can kind of see what's going on. And I'm seeing that with Tuukka Rask. He's not 100%, but he's good enough to go tonight. We'll see how it goes. I agree with the move. I don't want to see Swayman start in an elimination game, thrown into that situation. Tuukka Rask, I think even not at 100%, has been playing phenomenal hockey. He's not the reason the Islanders are winning. So Tuukka Rask tonight. That's all I got on the goalies this week.
Absolutely. I don't believe in that money thing. I mean, I know money's the most important thing, but I mean, if the NHL forced wins for money, the Leafs would have won the Stanley Cup since 1967. I can assure you that. My article. I feature an article every week on this show. I appreciate it when people go to one of my sites to read my stuff. This week is going to be on Jesper Wallstedt. He's the one goalie that I can see being worth a first-round pick for the Blackhawks at pick 11. And he's a goalie from Sweden. He plays from Luleå HF of the Swedish Elite League, and he's just a sweet goalie. If he falls to the Hawks at 11, I definitely could see them taking a chance at him. I know there's Lankinen, but I'm not set on Lankinen being just a true bona fide Stanley Cup winning number 1. This Wallstedt kid is very good, and people are high on him. Whenever a goalie is projected to go in the top 15 of an NHL draft, that means they think he could be a superstar goalie. I mean, guys like Spencer Knight and Vasilevsky and Samsonov in Washington, Carey Price, Marc-Andre Fleury, those are the guys who go really high in draft. Every now and then a Pekka Rinne or a Henrik Lundqvist will come out of nowhere, but, for the most part, it's the draft. The draft is the key to being elite in the NHL, and I highly encourage everyone to take a look at this post on DeWindyCity.com, and you will see a more in-depth look at Jesper Wallstedt, as I believe he will be a goalie selected in the top half of the first round this year.
Very interesting, yeah. A young kid, 18 years old. It's weird seeing an 18-year-old nowadays being born in 2002. I think that means we're kind of old.
There are kids in this draft born in 2003.
That's crazy. Pretty soon there's going to be people who were born after the White Sox won the World Series. Think about that.
God. That's so sad, man.
I didn't mean to put a downer on the situation here, but yeah, I mean, goalie, he's 6'3", he's a kind of a taller guy, catches with his left, typical for most goalies, but I mean, that would be really cool if they picked up a goalie.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get on to the baseball talk tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for Crosstown Crosstalk. We're gonna get into a sticky situation on that show. I'm very excited to talk about some baseball, and we have a very special guest. For those of you who are local to the Chicagoland area, you may have heard of one David Kaplan. He is our special guest from Cap and J Hood on ESPN 1000. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., you can listen to us talk about some baseball live and at your leisure. Of course, we're the same place you find this show, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's all there for you. Make sure you follow at Joey Parise on Twitter, at Vinnie Parise. Do you have anything left?
Absolutely. Chris Gonzo makes a fantastic point. What I just said is completely irrelevant after the White Sox win it this year.
That's true.
Great point. Great point, Gonzo.
We need Jimenez and Robert back. I still believe that's key. But having the third best team ERA in baseball, only behind the Padres and the Mets, who kind of cheat because they have DeGrom, you like their chances. Pitching is king.
Yep. And we'll talk about that more tomorrow. So
absolutely. And make sure you follow us both on Twitter, because we're going to be updating the Stanley Cup playoffs a lot. Me and Joey are going to make a funny video for Thursday or for Friday if the Bruins win. And who knows, maybe if they lose, I'll go make fun of him and see if I can get him to hit me.
I mean, just come around me.
Well, guys, 5 minutes each for fighting.
Just come around me and start talking shit, and yeah, there might be some hands thrown. I don't.
What this show needs is the Devils to play the Bruins in a playoff series, because you will hate me.
You don't want that smoke.
I don't think you can handle it.
You don't want that smoke. Tilt your head a little bit. Look at that. Great show.
I'm Vinny. Thank you for listening.
Bye.